So, good morning, good afternoon, or whatever time it is on your side. Welcome back to Nelson Network. So, today we are going to build a basic campus network where we have one server, one multi-layer switch, we have three layer 2 switches, and we have three PCs in three separate VLANs. What we're going to do is we're going to make our layer 3 switch to work as a router. So it's going to route traffic between the VLANs. So we're going to perform inter-VLAN routing, and we're going to make sure that the server is in its separate layer. So one thing we need to note here is the connections, the interfaces between the switches, that is the layer 2 switches and the layer 3 switch, the multi-layer switch. Their interfaces must be in trunk mode. Trunk mode for us to send traffic from VLAN 1 and from each individual VLAN. So for that to be operational, we need to be in a trunk mode for the two traffics to travel. That is traffic from VLAN 1 of the multi-layer switch and traffic from the VLAN corresponding to that switch. That is, for this case, VLAN 10, this case, VLAN 20, and this case, VLAN 30. So, and also, we're going to configure on each VLAN, we're going to configure these IP addresses with subnet mask of 24. So that is for VLAN 1 on the multi-layer switch. We're going to call it a core switch. On VLAN 1, we have this IP address. VLAN 10, we have this IP address. VLAN 20, we have this IP address. VLAN 30, we have this. VLAN 100, we have this. So we start by configuring these IP addresses. Let's get to it. Switch 1, let's go. Enable show run. You see our configuration. So show run on the core switch. We see the host name is core because it represents our core switch. IP routing is not enabled. On this core, we have to enable IP routing on this switch so that our switch can perform like a router and route traffic from the VLANs. So these are the ports that are connected to this core switch. Or we have VLAN 1 that's shut down. So we can start by, if you want, enable IP routing. IP routing for start. Yes. We can go to, you can do show run again and see. Can show VLAN brief. So right now, the switch only knows this VLAN. Show VLAN brief. This is VLAN 1. These are all the ports that are in this VLAN right now. We have VLAN 10 and VLAN 20. So let's add VLAN 30 and VLAN 100. Simple. Let's just do let's make sure VLAN 20, VLAN 10, VLAN 20, VLAN 30, VLAN 100. So show VLAN brief again. See, we've added this VLAN in our core switch. So next thing we do, we need to put these interfaces in each VLAN. So interface gigabit 1, interface gigabit, or we can first of all let's give these VLANs an IP address to make it simple. So VLAN 1 IP interface VLAN 1 IP address 10.11254 10.11254 255 255 Let's go to interface VLAN 10. 10.1.10.254 10.1.10.254 255 interface VLAN 20. Interface VLAN 30. Give it an IP address. Interface VLAN 100. Show IP interface brief. See which interfaces are up and down. So we have let's make it bigger. So we see that we have these three interfaces up as gigabit 101, 102, 103. It corresponds to these interfaces connected to these layer 2 switches. So they are all up. That's good. Let's go to the VLAN. We also come here and see that we have interface 1020 that's up. This is this interface here. It's up. That's good. So we have VLAN 1, VLAN 10, VLAN 20, VLAN 30, VLAN 100. They are all up, but they are administratively down. The protocol is down. So we will work on that. Can do show run to see our host name is there, call. See, the VLAN has been assigned IP addresses. We need to short it. We need to switch this interface up so that the other interfaces come up as well. So because from here, this VLAN is administratively down. So hopefully when we bring it up, because these VLANs are connected, supposed to be connected on, we're going to put this VLAN in on each port that is on the respective port. So let's bring this VLAN up, VLAN 1 up first. Interface VLAN 1, no shot. Let's see. Now it's up. So we need to assign these interfaces, this VLAN to specific gigabit interfaces. That is, VLAN 10 is going to be assigned to gigabit 101. So let's do that very quick. Interface gigabit 101. Switch port access VLAN 10. So now that we've done that, let's check again through IP interface brief. So you see that now that it's up, because he has been given an interface, and that interface is up. Conft interface gigabit 101. No shot. It's already up. So interface gigabit 102. Let's give it a switch port 20. Interface 03. Switch port 30. Interface 20. VLAN. VLAN 100. So let's show interface brief. Now you see they are all up. Now we're going to make these interfaces strong. As we said, conft. Let's go to show run to see the host name is this. Call so interface gigabit 101 is in VLAN 10, good. 102 VLAN 20, 103 VLAN 30. So it's telling us that native VLAN mismatch discovered, because we need to put it in trunk mode. Switch port access VLAN 100. It's for interface gigabit 20. It's good. So the VLANs are up now. They have MAC addresses. Yeah, so now let's bring those interfaces in trunk mode. Interface gigabit 101. Switch port mode trunk. Zero two trunk. 03 trunk. Show run. Now we have gigabit 101 to be in trunk mode. 102 trunk mode, 103 trunk mode. The interfaces, they have their IP addresses. So that's good. Show IP interface with. They are all up. The 3 gigabit interfaces connected to the switches, to the layer 2 switches are up. The interface connected to the server is up. Our VLAN are all up, so that's good. So as the last check, we see that all the interfaces are up. Let's confirm if everything is right. Show run. The name of the switch is core. That's good. IP routing is still not enabled. We're going to enable that again. Gigabit 1010203. They are all in trunk mode, as we can see here. They are all in trunk mode. That's good. So, but we notice here that interface 1020 is not in a particular mode. It's in VLAN 100, yes, but we don't know if it's trunk mode or it's access mode. We need to put that in access mode. So is this VLAN right here? It doesn't have to be trunk because there's no, it's not connected to a different switch. So we're going to put this in access mode. So VLAN 100 interface gigabit 1020 needs to be in access mode. So we need to add this to be in access mode and enable IP routing. So let's see again what else needs to be done. These interfaces are up. They have their IP address and their MAC addresses. So that's good. Let's do that. Conf t interface gigabit 1020 switch port mode. What are the various modes that we have? Switch port mode access. Okay, that's good. Conf t IP routing. Show run. So we have now you see that it's in access mode. That's good. So we run this show run including IP routing. It tells us that IP routing is enabled. We show IP route. This gives us a routing table. So this network is directly connected to VLAN 1. So the inter-VLAN routing is possible. We just have to make sure that devices in this network have their default gateway set to .1 of each. So now that we have that configured, let's go to configuring our switches. Do show on, let's see the configuration first of all. You have the host name, we have fast internet 01, this is it. You need to put an IP on this VLAN and bring it up. It's currently shut down, so let's do that. One IP address on VLAN 1, switch 1, 10.1.1.1. This will enable the inter-VLAN routing to take place. We can do show IP interface brief to see the VLAN that needs to be configured. VLAN 1 is down, so interface VLAN 1, no shot, bring it up. IP address 10.1.1.254. Show VLAN brief. You see, it only has VLAN 1. We need to make sure that it learns the VLAN from the core switch, and we use VTP for that. Show name is S1. Show IP interface brief. Enter the various. So this interface is up. This is the interface that's connected to the switch, to the core switch. We need to make it a trunk. Interface gigabit 0.1. So switch port mode trunk, no shot. So we can verify if show interface gigabit 0.1 switch port. See, it's the trunk is trunk mode, and yeah. So we needed to make this port a trunk port because it is the port that's connected to the core switch. As you can see here, this port is connected to the core switch. So now we need to add PC1 VLAN 1. We need to add this in this VLAN, PC1 in VLAN 1. So we can either add it manually or use VTP. You can show VTP status here. It says 5. We can make this VTP config conft VTP mode client do show VTP status. Okay, now it's in client mode because we don't have a VTP domain. So let's configure the VTP domain. I mean, now it's still 5. Normally we should have 9 VLANs, but now it's still 5. Let's configure the VTP domain on the core switch. Let's see here. Show VTP status on the core switch. See, we have 9 VLANs, but there's no VTP domain name here. And this is the server. The revision configuration number is 16. Let's see. Conft VTP VTP domain. We need to put the VTP domain name. So let's call it Nelson CCNA. Now, and show VTP status. See, the revision domain is now 0. Let's go back to the layer 2 switch. It has learned, it's now 9. See, the VTP domain name is Nelson CCNA. So one key thing here, so we can see and show VLAN brief. See, it has learned the VLANs. Unlike before, it has learned using VTP. So one very important thing here you need to know is that before, if you are trying to, we could assign this PC directly manually into each VLAN by adding the VLANs manually, but we didn't have to do that because we use VTP. Using VTP, one thing we must know is VTP needs to be in transparent mode first and put it in the client mode before giving a VTP domain name on the server. If not, it will make the VLAN configured on the server to disappear. So it will sync all the configuration. So it's very important to start by the switch, by the access layer, access switch, make those switches into VTP client first before coming to configure the VTP domain, because the main router, the main switch, that is the core switch, is always the VTP server by default, just that it doesn't have a VTP domain name. So you don't configure that VTP domain first. You have to configure the VTP domain last. Also, you have to make sure that before doing that, the configuration on your switch, the connection between your switch layer 2 and the layer 3 switch, this gigabit 01 is already in trunk mode before you do the configuration. If not, it will cause an error. So you have to make sure that this connection, gigabit 01, you see, show interface gigabit 01 switch port. We must make sure that it's already in trunk mode. That is the negotiation from this port to this port is correct. That way the VTP will be assigned properly. If not, it will sync and you won't have what you want. So that is very important. So people don't like using VTP, but I think VTP is good when it's used correctly. So make sure that before joining the VTP domain, make sure that your layer 2 switches are in client mode first. If not, you override or sync whatever has been configured on the core switch, and make sure that the core switch is the server. Also make sure that the connection between the interfaces of the switch, of the layer 2 switch and the core switch are both trunk. So now that we've done that, let's go and configure. So from this, we've configured these interfaces already. We've configured VTP on the switch. So right now, all the VLANs that were configured here, all these VLANs have synced into this VLAN. So as we saw here, show VTP. So we have all the VLANs available on this switch right now because they have been learned via VTP. So we need to configure fast Ethernet 01. Let's do that. Interface fast 01. So this does not need to be a trunk. It needs to be an access. It should need to be in access mode, just like this connection right here for the server. So, and now that is in access mode, we need to put it on VLAN 1. So we need to put this in VLAN 1 because this port currently has access to all the VLANs. So we need to assign it a specific VLAN. Access VLAN 10, sorry. Show on the switch name is this. Interface fast Ethernet 01 is in VLAN 10, that's good. And switch port mode is access, that's good. On this interface here, gigabit Ethernet 01 is a trunk. It's in trunk mode, that's good. We've given the IP address of the VLAN 1, which is good. Now that's good. Now we are done with this. You can save configuration, right, man? Just right, you save your configuration. Now we can come here and assign IP address to PC1. Give this IP address 10.1.10.10. /24 /24. So we have the IP address for that. Let's check IP config. So we have the IP address and we need to configure the default gateway. Let's go back here, config. default gateway will be 1.10.254, the last IP in the subnet. So having said that, we also need to configure, so now this is a default gateway. So we also need to configure the default gateway of the switch 1. IP default gateway will be, this will be the IP address of the core switch, which is this one, 10.1.1. 254. So we have the host name, we have interface, fast internet 01, VLAN 10, access mode. Default gateway is that of the core switch. The VLAN has its IP. The gigabit 01 is in trunk mode. It's good. I think that's all we need. So now we're going to do the same. We can ping, let's test if you can ping the core switch 10.1.1.25. Success. So it's good. So let's configure now the other switches. It's going to be a little bit faster here because we've done it already. Interface VLAN 1, no shot, IP address 10.1.20. What's the IP address here? No, 10.1.1, yeah. 1.2. So conft, we enable gigabit 01, no shot, just to make sure. Switch port, we need to put that in trunk mode first. So we have that. So let's check if we have the interface. We have the VLAN, show VLAN brief here. See, it still does not know any VLAN 10 or whatever because VTP has not been set. Show VTP status. See, now we need to put it in VTP mode client. Oh, yeah. Do show VTP status. Now it has been learned. Now show VLAN brief. You see we have the VLAN there. Now we need to put this in VLAN 20. Conft interface 50 no show save, switch port mode access, switch port access, VLAN 20. Conft IP address, no, IP default gateway. This is the default gateway. This is the IP address of the core switch. So do show run hostname to fast gigabit internet. This is in VLAN 20. That's good. Where is the trunk? This is trunk mode. Good. VLAN 1 has been given an IP address. Good. VLAN, the default gateway is that. So let's try to ping the default gateway. Success. Great. Let's go. Now let's configure the PC2. Default gateway will be the gateway in its subnet. So this is where I got this IP. Let's confirm. Oh. Command. So that's it. So let's do the same for switch 3. Interface VLAN 1, no short, IP address 10.1. IP address 10.1.1.3. So let's go to interface gigabit 01 switch port trunk. Interface fast 01. You see that we are not going to be able to put it in VLAN 1. Just check switch port mode access. Yes, switch port access VLAN 30 does not exist. Access VLAN does not exist, creating VLAN 30. So it doesn't exist because of VTP has not been enabled. So let's show VTP status. See, it's just 6, but we know that we have 9 VLANs. So show VLAN brief. See, it doesn't have. It has created VLAN 30, but it doesn't have the other VLAN. So let's do that. Conft VTP mode client. Show VTP status now. let's do the IP default gateway 10.1.25. So as we can see, you have to make sure that you do not, since I added the VLAN manually, but I had previously used VTP on the two other switches. Doing this manually has wiped all what we've done in the uh, previous configuration. So you have to make sure that you use VTP throughout, and you do not um, add the VLAN manually on the you do not add the you don't add the VLAN manually. You use the VTP throughout. So doing this, that's why we now have only one VLAN. That's VLAN 30, the one we created. So you have to make sure that you use VTP throughout. So yes, that's it. Yes, let's just add this one to 0, 1 switch port access VLAN 30 switch port mode access. Yeah, that should be it. Ping 10.1.1.54. That works. So now you come here and configure the default gateway 10.1.30.254. 10.1.30. Yes. So yeah. So that's we also configure the server. Default gateway will be that of its subnet. Yeah. Yeah. So that should be good. That's it for this lab. So yeah, that's how you configure a basic um, that's how you build a basic network. That's how you configure this type of that's how you configure a basic campus network. So I know this is probably the longest lab I've done, but yeah, it takes in account many configuration, many technologies, and yeah, I will see you in the next video.